Good morning, dear friends.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Toronto Spirit Society. Today is indeed a special day for many Christians from all sorts of categories, religions, beliefs, and we are all together to remember ourselves of Easter. And before we go any further with the meeting today, I wanted to stop for a very few minutes and think about that. There are several messages around the internet which is really helping us to remember the real meaning of Easter, right? And we see the society today going after the Easter bunny, the eggs, and the presents, right? As human beings, we tend to cling to negativity. So even myself driving around the city, we see the drivers cutting each other crazy, going to the shelves of the Walmart, buying things. We see the negativity, unfortunately. That's human beings. But gradually, with the use of technology, we see people more and more remembering what is the real meaning, right? We see people talking to the kids about what's the real meaning, which is remembering from the Jewish tradition the delivery of the Jewish people from the slavery, and then Jesus also coming with his message of love and sacrifice. Since last week, everyone has been remembering his entrance, his triumphal entrance in Jerusalem, right? The Last Supper with the disciples until his death. And many of us fill our hearts with sorrow and pain because of his tremendous suffering. But today is the day that we should always remember that Jesus brought to us the immortality of our souls, or the resurrection. And then we fight each other about resurrection, right? Spiritists see in a different way, Catholics see in a different way, Protestants see in a different way, but there is a common ground for all of us at the end of the day. And Divaldo Franco actually says that the resurrection of Christ can be interpreted in two different ways: the resurrection of the spirit and the resurrection of the soul. It's a very confusing part for some, but as Divaldo explained, it's very simple. The resurrection of the soul is the idea that once we passed away in the eyes of earth, we wake up as immortal spirits. Isn't that beautiful? There's no death. There's an opportunity for us to correct our errors, our mistakes. And the second is the resurrection of the flesh. It may sound strange to us, but the Spiritist brings full light to it. The resurrection of the flesh needs to be understood as reincarnation, or else there's no divine justice for us, or else there's no meaning. So let us rejoice today and remind the sacrifice of Jesus, his message, which is really calling us to action, to live every example he left to us. And let's look at those different ideas and bring what unites us. And we are here today united in this desire. This month, we open a new month with the theme of the Spirit's book, the first book published by Allan Kardec that is a milestone, considered actually as the starting point for the Spiritist doctrine in 1857. So we'll have a lecture today from our brother Dr. Magalhaes about the law of destruction. Kind of relates with the death of Jesus that we don't understand, that we didn't understood. There's a purpose for it, and we will understand that destruction has a purpose. But before we go into the lecture, we'll go with our initial reading and our initial prayer, and we go for it. And my apologies, I forgot to welcome everyone who is watching us through the internet. We have a moderator chat, so feel free to add your comments and questions over there. From the book Happy Life by Divaldo Franco, Joana de Angelis. Choose the company you keep. Bad company can be an inappropriate presence in your life and affect its course. Nobody is so independent and complete that he or she does not run the risk of contamination with those who are involved in evil doing or vicious foolishness. Be kind to the wicked and mischievous, but do not let your behavior, activities, and philosophy of life get mixed up with theirs. Moral weakness also infect the unwary who gets too close to them. And I would like to invite all of us to elevate our thoughts to Him who gave His life here on earth, who was sacrificing Himself every second of His existence to teach us how to love, forgive, how to live a spiritual life on this earthly existence. Dear Master Jesus, we thank you for another day, for another blessed opportunity, for the inspiration given by our guardian angels or spiritual protectors to be here, to learn a bit more about the law of God, about your teachings. We ask your blessings to our meeting, to all of us incarnate and the discarnate brothers who are here. We ask your blessings to our children, to our toddler, who are receiving their first lessons of Christianity. And we ask the blessings and the inspiration to our dear brother, Dr. Marco Magalhaes, in charge of our lecture this morning. Thank you, so be it. Marco.
Wow, thank you very much, and welcome everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here again. I hope today we're going to have a very interesting opportunity to discuss new ideas. As you can clearly see, the topic of today's lecture, is the law of destruction, can raise many doubts in the minds of a lot of people, including myself. What I'll try to do here is put some of these things in context. So maybe at the end of the day, we're going to understand a little bit more about ourselves and a little bit more about what actually does that mean. This is probably one of the most controversial chapters in the Spiritist book. And until today, you find very, very few people talking about it, which is kind of sad because it's a great opportunity to learn. But at the same time, a lot of people, like the same when we used to read the Bible, maybe before studying more about the Bible, we would take some of the teachings from the Bible very out of context and completely misunderstand them. And here is kind of the same idea, because you'll see through the talk that the spirits, the way the questions are posed to the spirits and the way the spirits answer in that chapter of the Spirits book, it's quite interesting, because the spirits clearly are trying to tell us something very different from the question that Allan Kardec sometimes asks them. And we'll start talking about it. So let's see what we have here. So do you guys know who's that man with the wig, the white wig there? No? I know, that's a hard one. Sorry guys, that's Lavoisier. I like the wig. It's just funny. Like, a lot of people. That's how costumes change anyway. But he said something that we understand. I guess I can understand that one, which is nothing's lost, nothing's created, everything is transformed. It's not hard, is it? I guess. Well, he was trying to tell us that probably one atom, one particle inside your body right now was actually in the body of someone living during Christ's era. Maybe even in his body. I don't know. It's a very likelihood. Because nothing's lost or is destroyed. Everything is transformed. So when I die, my physical body dies. When your physical body dies, it's going to be reincorporated in the mass of Earth, and it's going to be reused at some point by other bodies, which is quite interesting. So there are actually people creating theories about this, saying that, well, in the end, all of us here are somehow interconnected with the past, even our physical, even our bodies. So this tiny, tiny electron that's running in the particles inside my skin right now, they were also in the body of a dinosaur. Yes, that is true. Very likely. That's Earth. That's the planet we live. That's where we're incarnated. But when someone dies, like when I'm saying dying, I'm saying like the physical body dies, we see destruction. That's what we see. Our physical eyes can only see things that are transient, unfortunately. All I see here now, today, the walls, the ground, the screen, myself, my body that I see here, is transient. It will be transformed, but some people interpret that as destruction. And that's why when Allan Kardec started asking about the laws of destruction, what he actually really was trying to ask the spirits, and what the spirits are answering him are actually, this is not destruction. This is called transformation. And likely, this will be the best way to actually title this chapter, if we had a chance to one day to interpret better. It will be the law of transformation. Everything is transformed. But let's put it again in context. So Lavoisier said that. So nothing is lost, nothing is created, everything is transformed. So what are we celebrating today? Easter, right? What is Easter? Is resurrection. Can I call that transformation? Well, so everything in the world is transformed. Even the message that we're talking about today is about transformation. Because what we're talking today is that when Jesus left that message to us, he was trying to tell us, listen, I'm not dying. Death does not exist. That's what he was trying to tell us. I'm here. You can see me. Oh, our eyes again see the destruction in things and do not see the transformation. I'll give you another example. So what do you guys think when you see like a big volcano going up in flames and ash and being active? What does that image translate in your mind? The lava running and chewing up and burning everything along the way. Do you think about life? But that's what it is. We're standing today in what was lava before, many millions of years ago. But life today can only exist because of the flows and cooling cycles of lava that occurred millions of years ago. And what we see today is just a tiny hint of it, because Earth is also evolving. It's transforming and it's evolving. But a volcano represents a new cycle of life that comes with destruction in our eyes. Let's say Hawaii, for example. How many people live in... Whoever went to Hawaii? Marcio? No? I didn't. But it's a beautiful place, I gather. And how did it come about as being an island? At some point, everything was destroyed by lava, I guess. But that's what our eyes catch on. We can only see this very brief, narrow space in time. And we can only see the destructive part of things. That's where our mind connects all the time. Anything you see, as Marcos de Clay put it very well, we tend to see things on a negative perspective and on the destruction side of things. And this very wise man, probably not even thinking about Jesus, said something that means so much to all of us, even in Spiritism. So let's go on and talk about more examples of things here. So I'll give you 2 examples. They're probably looking at them, they don't mean anything to you at this point. But let's talk about this one first. And sorry, Fabio, this is not your backyard there. No, that's not. No, that's not the CN Trail. No, uh, this is nice. Although it would be nice to have an apartment there, I guess, right? Yeah. But that's right. That's transformative. But let's talk about this first. So, of course, a train runs through here, right? But what do you see here? For example, how are these tracks created? You guys know? How is it built? Yeah, a lot of work. And so for that to be shaped in that specific form, what does it have to happen? Like, what happens? And we have I live by one, like in Hamilton, so I know how it works. The fumes and the flames. Heat. Thousands of degrees of heat to fuse all the mineral content that's necessary for cast iron being laid and then shaped by multiple cycles of heating and shaping, reshaping, so that it can assume this interesting shape, which is fundamental to us. But again, if I think about fire, what comes to your mind? Life, transformation, or destruction? And that's what we're talking about today. The law of destruction signals something in our minds that actually does not represent what Kardec is talking about. It is not. Kardec is talking about how the world we live in today needs some steps of transformation to gather into a more evolved state, like all of us do, like Earth, animals, universe. Anything in the universe needs transformation. But along the steps of transformation, we have steps that may look like destruction because things are reshaped and reformed. And the tracks are a very good example. They're beautiful as they are, serving us very much because we depend on them, but they come by through a lot of fire and hard work, just like us. How can we be better? Are we evolved enough that we just say, hey, wait a minute, I'm just a better person right now. I can walk out here and I'll be perfect. I wish. That does not work. I need fire. I need a lot of fire to really put me back in perspective and try me and make sure I understand what I have to do, what I believe, and what I should do, right or wrong. Difficulties in life represent the fire on that track. For me to serve, I need to fully understand what it is, the law of God, and what should I do, what should I do, right and wrong. And unfortunately, we're not evolved enough to decide things always in the right way and say, yes, that's what I have to do, and I'll do it. No. We learn by trial and errors. And that's why we live in a planet of trials and expiations still. So we can bring examples and more and more and more examples of what really the law of destruction is talking about. And we can actually bring it very close to ourselves now and think about everything that happened even in this existence. Well, because we can't really remember what happened before, thank God. Because that would be actually very, very hard. But we can, even looking back in the last few years, we can think, well, how many things happened in my life that at the time I only saw destruction. I could not see the transformation that arose from it. And sometimes, and this is the complicated aspect of it, we're living today and we receive a news or something happened that is very sad and difficult to cope. Sometimes, in the next 2-3 years, I can see the positive consequences of all that. But sometimes I can't. And sometimes I have to come back multiple times to one day understand the significance of everything that happened in my life. But we can only see that in a long-term perspective. But again, our eyes can only see a short period in time. And we can almost never see the positive consequences of things in this particular period in time. So let's put things in perspective. I'll give you an example. In the book called Eustáquio, which is talks about a spirit that he writes about 1,500 years of incarnations. And in one of his incarnations, he came back as a beggar in the street. He homeless. He had nothing, and he didn't know, of course, but he actually he asked for it. He asked to be put in a situation where he would learn to cope with what represents having nothing in life, having to fight for his existence, and doing his best with whatever poor condition he had. So he asked for that challenge because in the past he was a king, and while a king, he abused his powers dramatically. So he decided to come back and say, that's what I need, I'll do it. Well, of course, he couldn't see that when he was incarnated, and he would see the destruction of things, and he ended up discarnating in that poor condition, but he completed his trial. He lived his whole life in a very, very difficult situation. When he discarnated, went in back, he complained, of course, like, why does this happen to me? Why do I have to go through all this destruction? And he was allowed to see back in time what happened in the last 2-3 incarnations. And then he started crying and said, you know what? I want to go back. Just put me back right now. Because I have so much to do and to learn. So just putting in perspective the things that happen in our lives today and how things are kind of shaped. And, another example here. So that's a little stream. And the water, there was, in the book by May, it's called Our Father, they talk about these two gentlemen walking by the stream. And one of the younger, there's a younger and a senior man, and the younger said, I want to know what should I do in life so I can, maybe learn something or live better or stop all this, frustrations in my life. And the elderly man pointed to the stream and to the spring water that was running, and he said, you should be like that stream. And the younger man said, well, wait a minute, I don't get it. Just water. And he said, you know what? The stream is representing the purity of the water, carrying all this necessary life to so many. It runs, it doesn't complain, it just runs. It connects to the ocean, it helps so many along the way. And look at this. There's like a sewer pipe coming in. What is the stream doing when the sewer pipe comes in? And the young man said, well, nothing. It's just carrying the sewage, and that's it, and keeps running. And then he said, oh, so what happened to the waters? Well, the waters are still clear, but now it's starting to get kind of muddy. And then there's another one, and then people started to throw stuff in the water, tires, rocks, and everything got all destroyed. Nature's dead almost, but the water was still running. And he said, this is what we should be like. It doesn't matter what happens to you in this existence. You have to keep running and connect to what's above you, the big one. Connect to God. Keep running your mission. Don't get bothered by things that happen with you, because in the long term, you'll see the consequences of everything you're doing. So let's put more perspective onto the law of destruction. So, destruction and self-preservation. This is another interesting point. And now we're changing a little bit subjects. And the spirits tell Allan Kardec that all destruction that goes beyond the limits of your needs is a violation of the law of God. So now we're stepping away from the philosophical understanding of destruction and talking about the material representation of destruction. And he's talking about destroying things, like, for example, destroying nature and killing animals and, doing all that. So human as co-creators. So we're co-creators of the universe because we can reshape things using our free will. So God gave us that ability, which is huge. That's why we can actually learn something, because we decide using our free will, and we can actually stumble our head on the wall, and then, well, wait a minute, I can't do this. And then I go the other way. So free will is really what is the only tool that you have that makes you learn things. Because otherwise, if I tell you what to do all the time, you won't learn anything. And we know that on our lives, right? So one day you won't have someone telling you what to do, and then boom, you're still the same person you were 30 years ago, and you make the same mistakes. Okay, so destruction is a law of nature. And we've talked about this already because, everything in the nature will be destroyed or transformed. Fire is actually life in the long term because it controls the biological constituents of the nature. It changes, reshapes all the landscape. There's a lot of things fire do that are actually quite positive to the nature. Unless it's a criminal fire and we set fire on purpose of destruction. And that's what the spirits are talking about. There's always something that we can do that's a violation. So what he talks about here is that if I'm in the woods and I have nothing to eat and I'm starving, killing an animal is not a crime. It's the law. It's the law of self-preservation, because I have to live. But if I go hunting because I like killing animals, like we see posting now on YouTube and things like that, people just go into Africa to enjoy killing an elephant, which is absurd because they're killing just for killing, for the sport of killing. That's when the spirits say, wait a minute, this is actually beyond the limit of what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to take care of creation and not destroy creation. And there's always a fine balance between things. And humanity tends to push it always towards the destructive side of things, rarely keeping a balance on. We're learning, but we're learning not because we're very smart. It's because the consequences of our collective mistakes so far. So climate change, pollution, all this combined is sending us the message that we need. That say, wait a minute, you got to do something different here, because otherwise, your life's going to be severely, severely compromised. And the more we evolve, the more we understand that too, which is quite a logical concept. If I start learning things, like for example, our society nowadays, we can easily say that we're more conscientious about what we eat, for example. Where is it coming from? Or what are the sources now? We have labels that tells us printed that, this is coming from, so this paper is coming from a self-renewing type of production of trees, for example, that, they're planting the trees, they go around and they take, so what's telling us we're a little bit more conscientious about it, which is very different from 1,000 years ago, which no one ever thought about this, right? So part of evolution is part of really understanding better what's happening to the world today. And there's always a balance between destruction and self-preservation, as you guys will see. And we'll talk about that in the next slide, which is quite interesting. This is a little bit on my alley, so I like talking about this. So here's what the spirits tell Allan Kardec, which I find very interesting, is that the malady and the remedy are placed side by side. That's our life. We have options, always. And very often, we're posed with situations that make us decide. It's like a dichotomy type of thing. It's like a biphasic response. I decide between one thing and another, and they tend to be kind of contradicting each other almost, right? And this is interesting because when you think about even medicine, which is, where I kind of learn a little bit more about things. And for example, this is a medication that a lot of people use for cancer. You know that. So, I know. Oh, she can't see. Okay, so this is cyclophosphamide. Right. So this is immune mediator, immune suppressant medication, also used for cancer treatments. And as many cancer treatments, as you guys are fully aware of it, most cancer medications are lethal, depending on the dose you use. They'll kill you, literally. That's what they're designed to do. But they're designed to do, that's why we dose it quite well. So they don't kill you right away, but they preferentially kill the cells that are doing bad and spare as much as you can the cells that are doing good. But in the same principle, you can actually go either way. It could actually save your life, or you can take it a little bit. So that's why there's a fine balance in the middle that you have to find, that you're going to be able to take advantage of this and save lives instead of bringing destruction. Now, talk about our lives, though. Isn't that what we do all the time? Very often our actions have a balance point that will tell us that we're doing well or we're leaning towards destruction. And I like to give this example. I know Marcy's looking at me. Don't talk about this again, but I'll talk about this again. And for example, I'm running late the morning. I run late in the morning, right? So I have to be at work, let's say at 8 o'clock in the morning. And the nurses are all excited because I'm not there, and the patients are all waiting, and you say, and I have 10 minutes to get to the hospital, but I live 20 minutes away. So what do you do? Marcia, what do you do? No, you don't speed, right? Okay. Ever. So do you speed 150 kilometers an hour, or do you speed 110 kilometers an hour? 120. Okay. So you're speeding, but you're considered a safe speeder. Yeah. You don't get a ticket at 120, right? Okay. Good. Good. That's the answer. I speed at 122. That's what I do. But some people speed at 160, and some people go at 90. Some people go at 80. Is it dangerous to go at 80 at a QW? Yeah. It is very dangerous. It is as dangerous as going at 120, I would say. But there's always a fine balance. You can get there alive, or you can kill yourself while driving. There's a balance. It's a decision that you make unconsciously. And you decide that the way you're driving is the best way that you're going to get there in time and still alive. Or you may have a chance of getting there early, but you're going to kill yourself and others along the way. So you choose. You choose. That's the one example of the decisions we do unconsciously on a daily basis. Every day. And we can talk about anything you want, but there's so many examples here. And what the Spirits are saying, you have the decision. It's up to you. You know enough by now to make the decisions, the right ones, at least. You try. Right? We don't, right, Jeff? We still speed. But we try as much as we can to do it correctly. Okay? And as you know too, don't be judgmental with medications like this, because this saves life. Right? We only see the destruction side of things. But when you're dealing with the disease, a lot of people are anti-medication type of thing, which is not helping you either. Because remember the balance. If you say, oh, I'm totally natural and I'm going totally against medication. If I give you an option that a medication will save you 95% of the time, and you say no to that medication, you're going against the law of self-preservation. That's as simple as that. You're taking the risks. It's up to you to decide. Now, if I tell you that a medication is 50%, sure, you could choose either way, right? It's fine. It's up to you, the decision. If I tell you there's a cure for that disease, and you don't want that treatment because of any reasons, you're assuming the risks for it. You have to live with the consequences. Now, is it positive or negative, or is it going to live or die? That's not up to me to decide, or to your, but every decision you make has a consequence, and that's what we have to find the balance. At the same time, it's not fine to take medications just for a raw hobby and just because, this is cool and all that. No, because medications have a lot of side effects, and you have to use it wisely and correctly in specific situations so you can take benefit of it. And not start drugging people just because they have less attention. The kid has not enough attention or the kid is acting, it's giving a lot of trouble to the teacher. That's not a good reason for you to drug a kid. So that's called balance. Unfortunately, not all professionals have a balance in life. Not including us. We normally don't take that in the right way sometimes. Let's talk about calamities here. And that's another part of the chapter. So here's what the spirits tell us. So in the great calamities that decimate the human race, the sufferers are like an army that, in the course of a campaign, sees its clothing leathered, worn out, or lost. The general is more anxious about his soldiers than about their coats. What are the spirits? The spirits are so wise. Because at that time, just to put you in some perspective, in 1840s or so, Italy was coming together as one country. And when Italy was coming to, because it was all separated in little kind of territories, right, and kingdoms and things. So it was coming together, and France was actually backing up Italy. But Germany at that time, which is Austrian Empire, was not very happy with that. So there was a little war at that time, around the time that Kardec started, by the tail end of the time Kardec was writing his first book. So the spirits took advantage of that situation, because Kardec kind of had it in his mind for sure, everyone in France, and say, when you see a lot of people disincarnating at the same time, what you're seeing there is they're losing their coats. They're shedding away their armors. So their body's dying. But what about their spirits? I really don't mind what's happening really with their bodies if I can see through that and see what's happening to their spirits. And I think the best description of this in the literature is from the book from Divaldo Franco, which is I'll remember the name in a minute. Is the Planetary Transition. Yeah, good. Thank you, Declay. I know you sent that to me. I picked it up. Yeah. So and by kind of the 5th chapter, I think, the spirits go into a mission to help these people here. Do you know what this map represents? No? Anyone? Thailand. Good. 2004. That's exactly it. So this is previous tsunami, and this is after tsunami. So destruction, right? Is that what we see? We only see that. Because we're only looking at the physical destruction, which is horrible, but it's temporary. And that's what the spirits tell them. Listen, what you're missing here is that all the spirits that are present here, that are discarnating or are going through this process now at this point, which is highly traumatic to the spirits, are having the chance of learning a lot during this process. And they will have a chance to reincarnate with a lot of help and maybe have another chance in life to be a better person, to grow, to evolve. But unfortunately, the way things happen is that a lot of spirits present at that time in that specific place needed some type of intervention. You see intervention, the A&E special, there's a program on TV called Intervention, which is quite interesting, about drug addicts. So if you have a chance, it's kind of a sad program, but so they show drug addicts going to intervention. So the family comes together and kind of give them a shake. It's like, well, you have to stop this, This is what happened here. So the way the spirituality found to really give a shake to a lot of spirits at the same time, which to congregate them in a specific area, and that happened. Did it have to happen? No. But we collectively, all together, and they collective particularly, created such a tremendous chaotic energy with themselves and collectively, spiritually and incarnated, that an intervention was needed. And the intervention happened 240,000 people discarnated. A lot of people, no one discarnated, listen to this, no one discarnated ahead of time. Right? Because we always think that way, right? Oh, these guys, they were so young, they didn't have to discarnate. No, they had to. Either they had because they were fine and they could go on to the spiritual world and continue their beautiful missions there, or because they needed, because they had to go through school again in the spiritual world and come back again and try it again. But nothing's done out of luck or chance. This is very well programmed, spiritually and physically, right? And they go into this assistance mission for all the spirits that are discarnated, they're helping each one. They're taking care of their struggles, and they're taking them to the rescue centers in the spirit world so they can come back and have another chance. But we don't see that. Remember the fire. We only see the fire as destruction. And that's what Spiritism brings to us. There's so much more to the story that we cannot see, and we judge by what our eyes catch at that specific time. And the most important thing, that one I never thought about, and just after I read the book, I was so inspired about this. And I don't know if I have a slide about it. No, I don't. This was the largest humanitarian mission ever recorded on our history. Millions of people went there to help. Globally, we raised billions of dollars to help. Pharmaceutical companies, where everyone is so angry with them, they donated over $60 million in medication to people. Governments like Canada donated like $300 or $400 million. And privately, together, Canada donated like $800 million. I think it was amazing. Same with the United States, almost $1 billion. And we don't see that when that happened, the whole world benefit from it in a way. We suffer, but we connect with the tragedy, and we create a feeling inside of us of help, of charity, of being better, of coming to the rescue of other people. And that collectively, as Divaldo put in the book, that collectively raised our energies to all together, the whole universe. Because at some point in time in the past, we'll say, oh, okay, we were fighting for life 2,000 years ago. We wouldn't really care if people died somewhere else in the world. We didn't even know. But now we're so interconnected, and we're developing these early stages of charity and loving and caring, as collectively I'm saying, that we're able to demonstrate that at that time. So spirituality takes any opportunity to teach us something and to make us better somehow. And spiritually, the book is amazing because it really tells us those guys are all being helped. Every single one of them that discarnated that day. And believe me, they'll come back very happy and fine to another chance. Some of them are probably reincarnating already and having another chance to go. And this is, I think, is the most controversial aspect of the chapter, which is war. Do we still need it, or did we ever need it? I think that's the big question. Is a war necessary? No? No, it's not necessary. No. Yes? No? Divided answers? Yes and no? Well, if you think from the formation of the universe to today, no, we never needed war. It was never in the plans. But when you have stubborn kids that don't know how to play with each other, and they steal each other toys and they throw them in their other heads, and they can't figure out what to do with it, they fight each other. We're the stubborn kids now. And although it's not needed, we make it happen. We make it happen. And because we decide to make it happen, spirituality comes in and take even war as an opportunity to teach us something. And that's why there are benefits coming from the war, But it's not because the war was needed. It's because the spirituality really used that moment in time and the collective, understanding of our government at that time or this time, we're always in war, to, so we can learn something, we can make some progress out of it. And that's very well reported in André Louis' books, because, see, in the around the time of Nosso Lar, there were, and the messengers and the missionaries of light, I think, if I'm correct, there was the Second World War, so they actually could see what was going on, and they could help the spirits discarnating, right? The messengers, yeah, that's right. So they asked, so how is it that, so that's Allan Kardec asking, the question 755 of the Spirit's book. So how is it that in the midst of the most advanced civilization, we sometimes find persons as cruel as the savages? Do we see that today? Oh, we do. Talk about the ISIL and the Islamic State, what they're doing. You can't be more savage than that. And we can even think about the descriptions in the Spiritism of how the umbral, sometimes they can actually touch the surface of Earth, and you have this influx of thoughts that can really transform these incarnate spirits into little savage kind of machine things that could go around and try to send despair and destruction around, right, as we call it. So just as on a tree laden with healthy fruit, you may find some that are withered. They may be said to be savages who have nothing of civilization about them but the coat, right? They're wolves who have strayed into the midst of the sheep. Spirits of low degree and very backward may incarnate themselves among men of greater advancement in the hope of advancing themselves. Well, that's all planned out. Look, nothing happens by chance. But if the trial be too arduous, their primitive nature gets the upper hand. And that's why we see people going from Canada to fight. So these are spirits that had a chance. They've done a lot of mistakes in the past. See, the planet is transitioning. They're going to be kicked out at some point. Not really kicked out, but their energy is not going to be able to sustain energetically with the level of energy that our planet will have at some point. So they will not be able physically to incarnate here, so they'll have to incarnate in another planet. So, but they have a chance, like a last chance. Say, okay, I'll send you to Canada or to Italy or France or any other developed country, and I'll give you a chance to live a very stable life. You have opportunity to study, you have a good family, and I'll give you everything you need. All you need is to resist the temptation of killing people or fighting or bringing destruction and chaos, A lot of people succeed. There's a lot of people out here that are saying they have the inner feeling of like, I should go and fight, but they say, no, I don't. This is not nice. So they're succeeding in their mission. But some will have the urge to do that and they say, you know what, I can't resist this, I'll go. And that's where they stumble in the same errors that they committed so many times already. So a lot of people going there to fight in that type of savage mode, they've done that multiple times in existence. And we have people incarnating, and even Eustáquio, the book that I mentioned before, he talks about it. Well, the savage wars that he used to have 1,500 years ago is imprinted in their minds still. And that's what they act when they're incarnating again. So this is the transition time that we talk about so much. So transition of Earth also means some changes in the vibration of the planet a little bit. So you have people fighting, you may have wars, you may have peace, you may have love. That's like kind of a conjunction of changes that are needed. So a lot of spirits that are coming to have their kind of a last chance, and they'll have an opportunity to make that decision, right? And that's why we still see that. So we have to help them. But can you help someone that does not listen to you? So there are situations, and the spirits are very clear about it when they say, for example, that a soldier that is sent to war is not guilt, spiritually speaking, for the death that he may induce to another person in the field if he's trying to defend himself, right? So that's very important. he's certainly culpable if he's killing just because he wants to kill everyone. That's a huge difference, right? If someone in the mission, even in the war, you can have some soldiers that are abiding by what they're supposed to do, and you have soldiers that are not abiding by what they're supposed to do. And the Spiritist brings that distinction. If a government sends you to war because you have to go and fight for your country, for your life, and defend yourself, you're not culpable of killings that may occur. But you have to avoid them at all costs, and Spirit is very clear about that. So it's not about going shooting everyone, but defending yourself and defending the life of others. So that's actually one of the positive things, right? All right, so the evolution of the wars, and I have it here, like a very good example of it. So yeah, so this is probably me many years ago, incarnated on Earth, and I was trying to search for Marcio here. Where are you, Marcio? But I couldn't see him. He's doing 120. I couldn't see him, but I'm we'll level that in a minute, okay? And then we go to this time of history, which is as sad as what we're going through at this moment, and at a minimum, which are the Crusades. So these are Christians killing the Muslims, right? So they're killing the Muslims, trying to retake Jerusalem for the sake of killing people, anyways. But power. It's not about religion. There's no religion here, right? It's all about power and politics and money. And does that sound similar to? No? Yeah? Yeah? So we're still living here, in isolated pockets, but we still have, because we're still the same spirits that incarnated at that time. We're not different, really. We're trying. We'll get there. But we still have that inside of us, a lot of people, right? And here's what we have today, which is kind of a payback time, right, for them. So that's what I want to bring up. So what we're seeing today likely is the reincarnation of a lot of people that lived through this time, or times in existence where religion was a factor in wars. And now we're seeing the same spirits coming back and putting that back into the table with the same savage methods of killing that we saw in the past. It's not different. Beheadings were the norm at that time. Were the norm. Crucifixion was a norm at that time. They were crucified too. Right? So what are we seeing today? The difference today is because we have evolved a little bit. Because at that time, we were here. We're just here, and we're cheering on. It's like, go, go, go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But now we're like, oh my God. What's happening to the world? So we're changing. Can you see that? We're changing. It is destruction, but it's also bringing on us transformation. It's giving us a kick, saying, gotta do something. Right? So, yeah, it's a difficult topic to bring Spiritism on, but I think it's our role of understanding this from the Spiritist perspective, or because it really widens our understanding of the world so much. We can actually make some sense of what's happening and what's our role. Of course we have to pray for everyone involved in this, but at some point we have also to defend our lives, and then the law of self-preservation comes into place, and that's a fine balance there. Remember the balance we talked about before. Killing people, of course, it's always wrong, but self-preservation is something that we also have to live by, and there's a balance. And let's get this done. So again, war and self-preservation, and that's the just bringing up one example from the same time. That's posthumous work from. It's a difficult book sometimes to read, but it's very interesting. So General X, actually, he died in the field in the War of Italy that I mentioned to you about, and he was one of the fierce defendants of the approval of the Spiritist Society of Paris when it was first created, because they needed approval from the government to open up the doors. And General X, which actually Charles Marie Spiritist, they kind of figured out that later, was the one that got the approval right away. And he actually himself turned to Spiritist. And he died and he came back to the Parisian Society to explain what happened. So it is a great example. So if you guys have a chance, that's in the posthumous work, the chapter called General X. And also in the Spirits magazine of 1859, Julius Caesar comes in and writes, and he's described his role as Louis IX in another incarnation, and how he fought, and what he learned. So, anyways, so interesting reading for you guys to go and. So, guys, destruction and renewal will always occur in multiple levels in life, always. So every time you see destruction, you should see renewal and transformation, because that's what it really means in the long term. And I think that's the message Spiritism brings to us. And that's what I have to tell you guys. I know I don't want to run over time because there's amazing food just waiting outside. And thank you all. And if you have any questions.
Thanks, Marco. We do have a very few minutes, otherwise we'll have a war here because we are between the food and
it's
right?
I'm
But any comments or questions from anyone? We actually had great discussions with Nadia and Danilo on the chat, so thanks for your participation. Anyone?
It's okay, everyone's hungry, I understand that, that's fine.
So this topic is actually from this great book over here. I think we still have over there for sale in our bookstore. Very nice. It's one of the key books of Spiritism, the Spirits book. Encourage everyone to read and research a little bit more. But actually this topic goes much deeper and help us to understand, the destructions or the painful things that we go through in life, right? Such as our diseases, right? Why do we get sick? Why do our loved ones pass away? Why those tragedies happen? So it helps us really to understand that the law of God governs everything. Nothing happens by accident, by mistake. Everything has a purpose, right? So as Marco well said, we have our lunch and learn right after this. I'm sorry to the folks on the internet, we cannot share the lunch with you. We invite you to come next month. Every first Sunday of the month we have our lunch and learn, and we ask for a donation. I think it's $15 that we request as a donation to help with the TSS expenses. So everyone here is invited to stay, and we thank everyone who watched it through the internet then. Marcia, you can just finish. I will just finish with a quick final prayer. We are not going to have the healing passes today because of the lunch and learn. And I would like to invite once again all of us here to ask our good spirits to help us to take the messages from today with us in our hearts back to our homes. We ask the same good spirits to bless our families, not only in this special day. May the message of Christ be with us and our family members, but also in every single day of the new week, which starts. Thank you, everyone, and so be it. We are